Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. It was a Friday, and I decided to leave the hangar earlier than usual. The rest of the crew had errands to take care of, and I figured they'd head out too, especially since I wouldn't be around. I was looking forward to an evening at home with Susan, my wife. We'd known each other for nearly 6 years, and our marriage had just passed the 3.5-year mark. We were both 29 years old. Our intimacy had always taken time to grow, and lately, for the past month or so, she seemed distant. I wanted to do something special to bridge that gap. I picked up a couple of bottles of good wine, some ribeye steaks from the butcher, and a bouquet of roses from an actual florist, not the supermarket. I had a plan: candles, a quiet dinner, and maybe a chance to talk, to understand what had been bothering her. I hoped to show her how much I loved her, with an early night to follow. I arrived home long before she did. Once there, I made sure the house was spotless. I put fresh sheets on the bed and arranged candles in the bedroom. The kitchen table was set with the finest cutlery and napkins we had. I uncorked one of the wine bottles to let it breathe, placing the roses right by the front door so she'd see and smell them as soon as she stepped inside. Roses were her favorite. I prepped my signature dish, potato scallops. I thinly sliced the potatoes, sprayed them with olive oil, added salt, pepper, and a pinch of rosemary. For the steaks, I lightly dusted them with mustard powder. Everything was ready, and all that was left was for Susan to arrive. I was proud of how everything had come together. Now, all I had to do was wait for the love of my life to come home, and my plan was to sweep her off her feet, showing her just how deeply I cared. I hoped the evening would set the tone for the whole weekend. As I finished arranging the potato slices on the baking tray, I heard the front door open. The oven was preheating. I heard Susan call out, "Oliver, are you here?" I found it odd that she had to ask. My car was clearly visible in the driveway, and the roses should have been a dead giveaway. I continued preparing the food, sprinkling the scallops with rosemary, when I heard her voice again. "Okay, we're here first. We'll sit on the couch. It'll look better if we're sitting and he's standing. He won't feel threatened when we tell him." "Tell me what?" I wondered, stepping into the living room, where I was met with a shocked expression from Susan, and another man sitting beside her. It only took a second to recognize him. For the past couple of months, Susan had mentioned him frequently. He was the new deputy head of human resources, taller than me, around 6 feet, with a trim figure, blonde hair, and a face too handsome for his own good. He carried an air of arrogance. My confusion must have been obvious, but he quickly extended his hand. "Hey man, I'm Daniel." I shook his hand in a daze, feeling his firm grip, too firm, a clear attempt to intimidate without saying a word. He didn't crush my hand, but it was close. What a jerk. I just stood there, speechless. He smiled at me, and that's when Susan finally spoke up. "Oliver, there's something we need to talk about." I could only manage to say, "Is he staying for dinner?" I thought. Maybe I could defrost an extra steak for him, though the idea unsettled me. But Susan kept talking. "I'm going to spend the weekend with Daniel. It's just for this weekend." I hadn't seen that coming. "What?" I asked, barely processing her words. "No." Daniel stepped forward and his grin widened. "It's going to be great for you, man. I'll show her things you can only dream of." His arrogance was overwhelming. "She'll be better for you when she's back. It's just one weekend, and it won't happen again." No, this couldn't be happening. "Never," I said, my mind starting to catch up. "If she does this, I'll divorce her." Daniel didn't even flinch. He stepped closer, looking down at me with a menacing presence. "No, you won't," he said coldly. "You won't be able to do anything about it." His voice was low, but the threat was unmistakable. "No," he repeated, as if he already knew how the weekend was going to end. "I can't stop you, but I promise the day you file for divorce, you'll struggle to even stand. From that moment on, your life will be filled with nothing but agony. The decision is yours." He stood beside Susan, smiling at me as if we were having a casual conversation. She'll spend the weekend with me. I have a lot to teach her. She'll come back to you after and I won't touch her again. She'll be faithful to you from then on." He glanced at Susan. "Isn't that right, baby?" Baby? What was he thinking, calling her that? I was too shocked to even think straight. "You two have already slept together?" I blurted out, assuming it must be true because of how he was addressing her. "No, we haven't," Susan said defensively. "That would be cheating." "And this isn't?" I retorted, feeling the weight of the betrayal. I needed a drink. "I'll get you a beer," Susan offered, trying to be helpful. "I can get it myself," I snapped. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "Give him some space, babe. He needs a minute to process everything. We've been discussing this for weeks, and we just dropped it on him all at once. He needs time to accept it's going to happen. He'll come around. They always do." Clearly, this wasn't his first time. I stormed into the kitchen, feeling like Susan wanted to follow, but Daniel held her back. He probably knew it wasn't the best time for her to be around me, and seriously, why was he still calling her baby? It drove me insane. When I got to the kitchen, I noticed a bottle of wine sitting open. I poured myself a glass and downed it quickly, but wine wasn't right for this moment. I headed for the garage where I kept my stash of beer. I yanked the fridge door open with way more force than necessary and grabbed a bottle of Old Crafty Hen. I slammed the door shut, cursing both of them under my breath. Where was the damn bottle opener? I couldn't find it anywhere. It should have been in the kitchen, but I wasn't ready to go back in there until I figured things out. I resorted to a trick we used in the army, wedging the cap against a sharp edge of the workbench and slamming it off. It worked then, and it worked now. The cap flew off somewhere, but I didn't care where. As I started to cool down, I stood there for a moment, thinking things through. Then, an idea came to me. I walked to the far end of the garage, opened a cabinet, grabbed what I needed, and stuffed it into my back pocket. I finished the beer in one gulp, grabbed another, and headed back into the kitchen. This time, I opened the bottle with a proper opener, taking my time. I also grabbed the largest knife from the set and slid it discreetly into my back pocket along with something else. Not because I planned on using it, I wasn't about to go to jail, but it was part of the plan. I took a deep breath and headed back into the living room. The two of them were sitting on my couch, holding hands like nothing had happened. As soon as I stepped in, they let go and shifted away from each other. Good. The balance of power had subtly shifted in my favor. It was clear they were waiting for my next move. I took out my phone and casually placed it on the coffee table, making sure they noticed it was already recording. He rose to his feet, taking in the anger on my face, and spread his hands wide as if trying to calm things down. "Look, man, it's just for a single weekend. That's all," he said, his attempt at being casual only fueling my irritation. I didn't consider him a buddy, not even close. He glanced at my phone. "I see you're recording this. That's fine," he said without missing a beat. "But just know what happens if this makes it online. The pain you'll feel won't just be like breaking a bone. It'll be much worse. You get me? I'm recording this for my own protection, and weirdly enough for yours and hers too," I replied, my tone firm. "Don't even think about sending this anywhere. I'm the deputy chief of staff. Every complaint comes across my desk, and I've got friends in the right places who will tip me off if you try to pull something. It's not about what you know, it's who you know. You follow?" "I do," I said, meeting his eyes with seriousness. "But I've got a proposal on how we settle this." He just smirked at me. Typical, arrogant jerk. I motioned to my phone and said, "For the record, why don't you explain what you plan to do with my wife?" He puffed up, looking proud of himself, like a peacock ready to show off. "I'm taking your wife away for the weekend," he declared. "I'm going to give her a sexual experience like nothing she's ever had. She'll learn new ways to pleasure a man. When she comes back to you, she'll be much better prepared to satisfy you. But don't expect anything until at least next weekend," he added with a smug grin. "She'll be too sore to even walk straight." He chuckled at his own bravado, but I wasn't buying any of it. "And after that?" I pressed. "She'll come home to you after having the best sexual experience of her life, but she's promised me she'll stay faithful to you for the rest of her days. She'll bring you new skills that'll drive you crazy," he said, still smirking. I turned my attention to my wife. "Susan, is this really what you want?" I asked, my voice edged with disbelief. "Yes, Oliver," she replied softly. "It's just one weekend, and after that, I swear I'll be faithful." I glanced back at Daniel. "And if she breaks that promise? Just like she promised to be faithful when we got married. What then? Will you come back and threaten her the way you threatened me?" I challenged, sarcasm dripping from my words. "Or will she fall for the next guy who offers her something even better?" His face reddened. Clearly, no one had ever called him out like this before. "She promised me she'll stay loyal to you after this weekend," he muttered, less confidently now. "Right, and I'm supposed to believe that after everything," I said with a sneer. "You know what? I'll fight you for her." He stood there, a bit taller and broader than me, but all he did was flash that arrogant smile again. "Fine, if that's what you want, but let's get it over with now. I don't want to waste the weekend," he said, clearly underestimating me. "I agree," I replied. Susan, her face pale, covered her mouth with her hands like she always did when she was nervous. "Two men fighting over me? This is so thrilling," she whispered, her eyes lighting up briefly. I shot her a look and growled, "I'm not fighting for you. You're not worth that." Her expression changed, the glimmer fading from her eyes, replaced by a look of realization. "I'm fighting for my dignity," I continued. "If I win, you walk away. You never talk to her again, not at work, not anywhere. If you win, you get your weekend and I won't file for divorce. But there are rules." He still wore that arrogant expression, as if he'd already won. "All right, let's hear it then," he said. "First one to fall on their back loses. No blades, no weapons. Everything else goes. And when it's over, no cops involved, no matter what." I nodded in agreement. "Fine, no police. You carrying any knives?" he asked with a smug grin. Without a word, I reached into the waistband of my pants and pulled out a hefty 30-centimeter meat cleaver, placing it on the table between us. His eyes widened slightly, but he kept his composure. "What's next? You packing a gun too?" he asked, still with that grin. I gave him a knowing smile and produced a realistic-looking air pistol from behind my back, an exact replica of a combat pistol. I wasn't sure if he knew much about firearms, but the look on his face told me he believed it was real. His cockiness faltered, though he tried to keep up the act. "I'm gonna beat you senseless before I throw you down," he spat, the bravado slipping. "Give it your best shot, pal," I replied. "Just remember, no knives, no guns, no police, and anything else is fair game." Yeah, I got it," he snapped. "You're gonna pay for this, you little punk. I might just keep her for a week after I'm through." "If I win," I retorted, "at least I'll know I fought for my marriage. I won't hate myself every time I look in the mirror." Just then, Susan's expression shifted. She had seen this look in my eyes before and realized this wasn't going how she'd imagined. "No, stop," she begged suddenly. "I've changed my mind. Don't do this, Oliver. Please, Daniel, just leave." Her voice cracked with desperation. "I don't want this anymore." But I could tell she understood how much I liked having the upper hand now. I turned to her, my voice low and cold. "It's too late for that. You and him started this weeks ago, and I'm finishing it tonight, one way or another." "Get your phone," I ordered. "You're going to document this." She was in tears, but it was out of her control now. I pointed at Daniel, who stood by the kitchen door. "After you, Evan." He hesitated before walking through the kitchen and toward the back door. I grabbed a few of my billets, following closely behind. As soon as he stepped outside, I slammed my heel into his back, sending him crashing face first into the flower bed. He scrambled up, turning to me with fury in his eyes. I just smiled. "No rules, right?" I said. Not exactly true, but close enough. He was angry now. Good. That was exactly what I wanted. The shift in power was all mine. If he'd fallen on his back, it would have been a bonus, but I hadn't expected him to go down that easily. He swung at me with his right hand, but it was so slow, it might as well have been in slow motion. I deflected it effortlessly, then flung a handful of salt, pepper, rosemary, and mustard powder straight into his eyes. He yelled, his hands flying up to shield his face, and I seized the opportunity, trying to shove him down. He stumbled but managed to stay on his feet, tears streaming from his eyes as he looked at me, furious and disoriented. Snot ran down his face as he tried to catch his breath. Without hesitation, I drove a punch into his gut, forcing him to double over in pain, but still, he didn't fall. His hands clutched his stomach and his face as he struggled to regain composure. I followed up by ramming my knee into his groin with all my strength. This time he crumpled to his knees, vomiting, overwhelmed by the pain. He was defenseless now, unable to shield both his stomach and his face. I attempted to push him onto his back, but he resisted, fighting with whatever strength he had left. Frustrated, I slapped him hard across the face. His body wavered, but even then, he didn't fully fall backward. My right fist collided with his nose, and immediately blood sprayed in every direction. Damn, that had to hurt. They sure don't show this kind of thing on TV. I slapped him hard across the face with an open hand. His head jerked back, and I instinctively hit him again with the back of my hand. Bad decision. My hand throbbed with pain. Leaning in close, I whispered, "You can stop this any time. All you need to do is lie down." I raised my hand as a threat. His knees buckled, and he collapsed onto his side before rolling onto his back. His strength seemed completely drained. I glanced over at Susan. Tears were streaming down her face, but I couldn't understand what she was crying about. I grabbed Daniel by the hair and yanked him to his feet, not bothering to be gentle. I opened the garden gate and told him coldly, "Remember this, you'll never speak to her again, you coward. And if the police come knocking, what happened today will feel like nothing." I shoved him out through the gate and shut it firmly behind him. The smell hit me then. He must have soiled himself in fear. Susan was still standing there, recording everything. "Send me that video," I said as I walked past her into the kitchen, heading straight for the sink to wash my hands. At least the rosemary I'd used while cooking would mask any lingering scent from Daniel. I went upstairs, and Susan followed closely behind. I grabbed a suitcase from the spare bedroom and began tossing her underwear from the drawer into it. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You won, and I'm all yours now," I replied, barely glancing at her as I packed. "We agreed. No divorce if you won. But I won, so I'm divorcing you and Will. I think it's time you go back to your parents." I dragged the suitcase downstairs, threw it out the front door, and picked up the phone to dial her mother. "Hi, Oliver. What a surprise. How can I help you?" Jennifer answered. "Jennifer, would you mind coming to pick up your daughter? I'm divorcing her," I said flatly, before hanging up. I'd already sent her an audio clip of Daniel bragging about how he planned to spend the weekend with her daughter. Jennifer had simply replied that it was exactly what Susan deserved. After that, I shut off my phone. I took Susan's hand and led her out the door, locking it behind her. She knocked, but I ignored it, and eventually she stopped. I fully expected the police to show up, but they never did. Maybe Daniel was too embarrassed to admit he got beat by someone smaller than him. No matter. I spent Saturday going through Susan's things, calculating the costs. When my grandparents passed away, my sister and I inherited the house. I had to take out a small mortgage to buy out her share. I figured I'd have to repay Susan for her portion of the mortgage as well. I edited together clips of the video and audio I had and sent them to every contact at Susan's workplace I could find. Guys like Daniel probably made plenty of enemies, and I trusted someone would make sure the footage landed on HR's desk. By Sunday morning, Susan's father came by to collect the rest of her belongings. He looked at me and asked, "Is there any way?" But the look on my face cut him off before he could finish. We shook hands, and he left quietly. I have a feeling Susan's parents played a role in making the divorce proceedings so smooth. It's been just over 4 months since I filed the paperwork. It was another Saturday afternoon, and I was in the garage, cleaning my air rifles. I had a shooting competition the next day. Just as I was about to stand up, I heard the doorbell ring. Before I could react, someone called out, "I'll get it!" It was Ava, the woman who helped keep my house in order. She appeared at the door to the garage and said, "There's a woman here who claims to be your wife. She is about 66 inches tall, has blonde hair, and looks to be in her early 30s. I turned on the kettle and left her in the living room. When I walked into the living room, I saw Susan. She looked as if she had put some effort into her appearance, but time hadn't been kind to her. She seemed older, about 5 years more than when I last saw her. She didn't look well. This was the first time I had seen her since I had kicked her out. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. "I'm paying you the agreed amount for the house." She looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. "Oliver, I'm so sorry," she began. "I made a huge mistake. He convinced me everything would work out, that if you really loved me, you'd let me go through with it. He was so persuasive. He even had one of the other women tell me how she did the same thing." "And what about this other woman? Is she still married?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Susan hesitated. "I don't know. I don't work there anymore." After the video and audio leaked, I was humiliated. No one would even look at me. I had no choice but to leave. "I have to ask, are you still seeing Daniel?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No. I wasn't going to keep seeing him," she said, shaking her head. "He kept his end of the deal and never contacted me again. But he wasn't around long. He vanished from work after a few days, and then things crumbled for him. Rumor has it another husband got to him. It wasn't me, though. I dragged him out through the back gate, gave him a warning. The police never came, but I kept my distance, always watching my back. That's how he should live, too. Decent men don't take other men's wives." "Oliver, please," she begged. "Can we try again? I know I messed up, but I'll never make that kind of mistake again. I love you. I did it for us, but I realize now it was wrong. I'm sorry." Just then, Ava entered the room with a tray carrying teacups, saucers, a teapot, milk, and cookies. She set it down on the coffee table. "You should let it steep for a bit," she said, before quietly disappearing back into the kitchen. Susan's eyes followed her. "Or have you already replaced me?" "That's Ava. She comes by once a week to clean the house. She also works at the hangar. I've been so busy with work that I don't have time to take care of this place. I even had to take out another mortgage to cover what I owe you." "Is there any chance, Oliver? Please?" she pleaded, her voice breaking. I poured myself some tea and took a sip. It was too weak. I should have listened to Ava and let it sit longer. "It's been almost 4 months. Not a word from you. You haven't contested the divorce, so why now?" I asked, my tone neutral. She dropped her gaze to her lap, visibly embarrassed. "I know I made a huge mistake. I thought if I gave you time, you'd miss me, that we could fix things. I had to be strong. Mom said if you loved me, you'd give me another chance. Dad thinks I'm wasting my time, but I had to try." I took another sip of the tea. Ava passed through again, this time carrying a tray full of cleaning supplies, heading upstairs. "I'm just heading upstairs to tidy up," she said with a mischievous glint. "There's nothing in your bedroom that would shock me, right?" She chuckled softly, then added with a smirk, "I hope you've hidden all your exotic gear." Without waiting for my response, she darted up the stairs. I exchanged a glance with Susan. "She's just teasing, you know," I said, trying to downplay the situation. "We've never really ventured into anything like that. Maybe we should have at some point, but you never wanted to go beyond the ordinary, except with him." I paused, the words catching in my throat. "Even something like trying doggy style felt like a stretch for you." Susan looked at me, her expression unreadable. I didn't respond immediately, still reeling from the anger I felt. But I kept it together. "What did you think was going to happen?" I asked, my voice low but firm. "You threw me for a loop when you casually dropped that you wanted to spend the weekend with another man. You'd been plotting it for weeks, and you gave me 2 minutes to decide how I felt, even threatening to hurt me if I disagreed. You liked the idea of 2 men fighting over you, didn't you? You hoped your lover would win, that you'd have this wild weekend of passion, and then what? You thought we'd just go back to normal afterward, didn't you? But that would be the new normal for me, always second to him. I get it. You wanted the drama, but when you pulled out a knife and that air pistol, it was too much. That's when I realized I'd made a huge mistake, and Daniel never stood a chance. I couldn't bear the thought of you ending up in jail because I allowed this to happen. I'm sorry, Susan. I loved you with everything I had, but you destroyed that the moment you told me you wanted to be with him. In the past few weeks, you've been distant, sad even. I thought something was wrong, so I did what I could to make you smile. Now it's clear. You were planning on being with that jerk. I'd even prepared a birthday dinner for you, had flowers waiting, and there you were, sneaking around. I was there for you, but you chose him. You wouldn't even come upstairs to talk to me. Instead, you threatened me, turned everything into a mess. How could you do this to someone you claim to love? I'll never be able to trust you again. It physically hurts to be around you now, I said, noting how she hadn't touched her tea. You should go, I told her quietly. She stood up, walking to the front door. I opened it for her, and she paused, glancing back at me. I love you, she said softly, her eyes full of regret. I'm sorry, but I get it. I threw one more parting shot. You remember that girl who told you about Daniel? I asked. Isabella Garcia? Yeah, she's about to be Isabella Lee again. Her husband's making her drop his name. Susan's eyes filled with tears, and without another word, she left. I didn't bother to watch where she went. I wondered briefly what Ava was up to upstairs. When I reached the landing, I saw that my bedroom door was slightly ajar. I stepped inside, unbuttoning my shirt and tossing it carelessly onto the floor. Ava would probably give me grief about it later, but I didn't care. As I entered the room, I saw her sprawled on the bed, wearing nothing but black stockings, a teasing smile on her lips. I couldn't find your so-called exotic gear, she said playfully. That's because there isn't any, I replied with a grin. Pity. I was hoping to try it out, she teased. By now, I was down to just my underwear. I headed into the bathroom, grabbed the belt from my robe, and came back. This should do the trick, I said, holding it up. Let's give it a shot, she murmured with a sultry smile. Nearly an hour later, Ava lay resting against my shoulder, one of her stocking-clad legs draped across mine. She tilted her head up to look at me. I should be thankful to Susan for pushing us together, she whispered. But I can't bring myself to thank someone for hurting you. It doesn't feel right. She smiled softly, then added, When your divorce is finalized and I move in for good, we'll definitely have to explore that side of things again. It was the first time she mentioned moving in permanently, but I didn't mind. As we drifted toward sleep, I heard her whisper, I want to explore everything Susan never did. And with that, we both slipped into a peaceful sleep. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.